The night sky above the alien colony was filled with strange glowing lights. The settlement was quiet. Only the sound of wind moving through broken metal towers. The colony looked old, forgotten, and yet alive with whispers of its people. Into this silence walked a human traveler, his steps calm, his eyes sharp, and on his hand, a single ring shined with a faint blue glow. The aliens watched him from the shadows. Some of them were tall and thin with skin that shimmered like glass. Others were short and rough, with faces carved by time and hardship. They had seen humans before, but none had ever carried such an object. Their eyes locked on the ring. Fear and curiosity mixed in their gaze. The man sat down in the middle of the colony square. He looked tired but strong. His clothes were simple, dusty from long travel, but the way he carried himself spoke of quiet confidence. The ring glowed brighter under the alien lights, and whispers grew louder. Among the crowd was an old alien woman. Her skin was pale silver, marked with ancient patterns that looked like scars, but carried meaning. Her eyes were deep and filled with memories of centuries. She stared at the ring as if she had seen a ghost. Finally, she stepped forward. Her voice shook as she raised a trembling hand and pointed directly at the human's ring. "Where did you get that?" she asked. Her tone was not just curious. It was fearful, desperate, as if the answer might change everything. The human looked at her, his expression calm but unreadable. For a long moment, he said nothing, letting the silence weigh heavy over the square. The other aliens leaned closer. Some hissed warnings to the woman. Others whispered that the ring should not be named. The human finally spoke, his voice low, steady. "Why do you ask?" The old woman's lips quivered. "Because that ring, it belonged to those who were lost." Her eyes filled with tears. "No one has worn it in generations. Only death follows it." Gasps spread through the crowd. Some aliens stepped back in fear. Some bowed their heads in respect. The human raised his hand and looked at the ring. It seemed ordinary, yet in this moment it pulsed faintly, as if alive. He leaned back against a stone pillar and gave a small smile. "Lost, you say?" he whispered. "Strange, because the one who gave this to me was very much alive when I last saw him." The woman froze. Her voice broke. "Impossible. No one survived, not after the wars." The human's eyes narrowed. His words carried weight. "He survived long enough to put this on my hand, and to tell me one thing." He paused, letting suspense burn in the air. "That this ring does not belong to the dead. It belongs to those who dare to live." The crowd erupted into shouts and cries. Some begged him to leave the colony before darkness followed. Others demanded he give the ring to the council. The old woman's legs trembled, but she did not back away. She stared at the human as though she recognized something hidden in him, something dangerous and yet hopeful. The man slowly stood, towering above the frail alien. The glowing ring caught every eye. "You all think this is a curse," he said quietly. "But you don't understand." He stepped closer to the woman, his voice softer now. "The truth is not what you fear. It is much worse and much greater." The air grew heavy. The whispers fell silent. Every eye fixed on the human. He looked at the ring once more, and his face turned serious. "If I tell you where it came from," he said, "your world will never be the same again." The old alien woman gasped, her chest rising and falling as though she could not breathe. Her hand reached out but stopped midway, afraid to touch him, afraid to hear, afraid to know. The ring pulsed again, brighter than before. The colony square was filled with its glow. The silence was complete, as if the entire world held its breath. And then, in the stillness, the human spoke one last warning. "Some secrets," he said, "are not meant to be spoken aloud." The old woman's eyes widened in shock. The crowd leaned closer, waiting for more. But the human fell silent, letting the mystery hang like a shadow over them all. The silence of the colony still pressed heavy in the air. The human's words were like fire, leaving the crowd restless and afraid. The old alien woman stepped back, her eyes never leaving the glowing ring. The people whispered her name, Ashara, one of the last who remembered the old wars. Ashara's voice was sharp yet weak. "You should not wear that. Human, you do not know what it brings." But the man only tilted his head, his gaze unreadable. He did not argue. He simply turned away, as if lost in memory. The aliens murmured angrily. Some wanted to force the ring from him. Others feared to even touch it. The human closed his eyes for a moment, and the past rushed into him like a storm. He remembered the day he first saw the ring. A battlefield, torn with fire and smoke. He had been younger then, wandering too far into the ruins of a forgotten outpost. It was there he met the dying alien warrior. The warrior was tall, his armor cracked and his blood dark against the sand. Yet his eyes had burned with life. In his trembling hand, he held out the ring, its glow faint but unbroken. The human remembered kneeling beside him, confused and cautious. "Take it," the warrior had whispered, his voice cracked, each word heavy with pain. "Do not refuse. It must live on. Humanity must carry it." The human had shaken his head. "Why me? I am no one." The alien warrior had smiled faintly, his teeth sharp, but his eyes almost kind. "Because no one expects you. Because only a human can bear its weight without falling." With his last strength, he had placed the ring onto the human's finger. The glow flared once, and then the warrior's chest stilled forever. The memory faded. The human opened his eyes again in the present. He looked down at the ring, the same glow pulsing now as it had then. His jaw tightened. He knew the promise he had made that day, to never let it fall into the wrong hands. Back in the colony square, Ashara raised her voice. "I know that ring. It was once a symbol of our unity. Before the wars broke us, it should have been lost forever." Her eyes glistened. "Tell me, human, did he give it to you freely? Or did you take it?" The human's voice was steady. "He gave it to me with his last breath." Gasps spread through the crowd. The whispers grew sharper. Some hissed that he was lying. Others muttered that the prophecy was real. Ashara shook her head slowly. "If what you say is true, then you do not understand the danger. That ring does not only bind memory, it binds power. Entire worlds fought for it. Entire races burned because of it." The human looked at her calmly. "And yet here I stand, wearing it, alive." Her lips trembled. "You mock what you do not know." But before he could answer, a loud horn echoed from the edge of the colony. The aliens turned, fear flashing in their eyes. From the dusty horizon, shadows moved. Dark figures approaching, armored and fast. The smell of metal and smoke carried on the wind. The human's eyes narrowed. His hand brushed the ring unconsciously. The glow pulsed again as if responding to the threat. The crowd scattered, some running to their homes, others hiding in fear. Only Ashara stayed, her frail form rooted to the ground. "They are coming for it," she whispered. "They always come for it." The human's face hardened. His voice was low but certain. "Then let them come." The figures drew closer, revealing themselves as a rival alien faction. Their armor bore the mark of the Black Sigil. A group whispered about in fear. They had hunted for the ring for generations, believing it would give them dominion. The leader stepped forward, tall and cruel. His eyes burned as he stared at the human. "Hand over the ring, Outlander, and perhaps we will let you live." The human did not move. The ring glowed brighter, its light cutting through the dark. He raised his hand slowly, the blue glow dancing across his skin. "This was not given to me to surrender," he said firmly. "It was given to me to protect." The leader snarled, drawing a blade of black steel. "Then you die with it." Ashara cried out, "Stop! You do not understand." But her voice was drowned in the roar of the invaders. The human stepped forward, his eyes calm, the ring shining like a star. In that moment, he was no longer just a traveler. He was something more, something the galaxy had not seen in ages. The crowd held its breath. The battle for the ring was about to begin. The colony square was no longer silent. The air trembled with the footsteps of the Black Sigil warriors as they entered. Their armor was jagged, dark as stone, etched with cruel symbols. They moved like predators, every step heavy with intent. The aliens of the colony backed away, pulling children close, whispering prayers. The human stood in the center, still calm, the ring glowing faintly on his hand. The leader of the Black Sigil raised his weapon, his voice cold. "You carry what does not belong to you. Human, that ring is ours. Return it, and your death will be swift." The human tilted his head slightly, his eyes sharp. "It was given to me by one who chose me. If you want it, you must take it from me." The crowd gasped. Some aliens murmured that he was mad to challenge them. Others stared in awe at his courage. Ashara, the old woman, clutched her chest, her voice trembling as she whispered. Just like before, history repeats. The leader snarled, and with a signal, two warriors rushed forward. Their blades hissed with dark energy. They struck at the human, but as the first blade neared him, the ring flared with blinding light. The energy rebounded, forcing the warrior backward with a scream. The crowd cried out in shock. The second warrior hesitated, but the human stepped forward, moving with unexpected speed. He caught the warrior's arm, twisted, and sent him crashing into the dirt. The ring's glow seemed to guide his movements, as if lending him strength he should not have. The leader of the Black Sigil narrowed his eyes. His voice was filled with anger. "So it awakens for you," he spat. "A mistake that will be corrected." The human stood firm, his voice steady. "It awakens because I was chosen. You cannot take what does not answer to you." The crowd stirred, whispers rising. Some aliens remembered the old stories, that the ring only answered to a true bearer, not to those who desired power. Ashara's eyes filled with tears, she whispered, "It is true. It is the same light, after all these years." But the Black Sigil leader would not yield. He raised his blade high, preparing to strike. The human lifted his hand, and the ring pulsed again. This time, strange symbols glowed in the air around him, alien runes that none had seen in centuries. The crowd fell silent, staring at the light. The old woman dropped to her knees, her voice breaking. The prophecy, it was real. The bearer has returned. The human glanced at her, confusion flickering in his eyes, but he said nothing. He kept his focus on the leader. The ring's glow spread across the ground like ripples. The leader charged with fury. His blade crashed down toward the human. But at the moment of impact, the ring unleashed a wave of energy. The shockwave threw the leader back, slamming him against the colony wall. His armor cracked, sparks flying. The warriors around him froze, fear flashing in their eyes. None dared to attack again. The leader struggled to stand, his rage burning. But he looked shaken. For the first time, he doubted. The human lowered his hand slowly, the glow of the ring dimming again. He breathed heavily, but his voice remained calm. "This ring does not belong to you. Leave, before it decides your fate for you." The leader hissed in anger but raised his hand to call his warriors back. They retreated slowly, glaring, promising vengeance. "This is not the end, human," he growled. "We will return, and when we do, not even that cursed ring will save you." The Black Sigil disappeared into the shadows beyond the colony. Their threat lingered like poison in the air. The crowd erupted into cries and shouts. Some cheered for the human. Some screamed that he had doomed them all. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with fear and wonder. Ashara pushed through the crowd, standing before the human. Her old eyes studied him carefully. "You are not just a traveler," she said softly. "You are tied to something greater. The ring chose you, and now it binds you to us." The human frowned. "I never asked for this. I only made a promise." Her voice trembled, and promises shape destiny. "Tell me, human, do you know what you carry?" He looked down at the ring, its faint glow reflecting in his eyes. His voice was quiet, almost weary. "I know enough to fear it, and enough to guard it." Ashara's hand shook as she reached toward him, but she stopped short, as if touching the ring would burn her. She whispered, "Then you must come before the council. They must see this with their own eyes. They must decide if you are protector or threat." The human did not answer right away. His gaze drifted to the horizon where the Black Sigil had vanished. His jaw tightened. "If they want the truth," he said at last, "then they must be ready for it, because the truth is far heavier than this ring." The old woman bowed her head, her voice a broken whisper. Then everything has begun again. The ring pulsed once more, and the colony braced for the storm that was coming. The colony did not rest after the Black Sigil left. Fear still lived in every corner. Children were hushed, doors locked, and torches lit as if shadows themselves could strike. In the center square, the human stood alone, his hand brushing against the faintly glowing ring. Ashara placed her wrinkled hand on his arm, her voice tired but urgent. "You must come with me. The council will want answers, and only they can decide what happens now." The human gave a slight nod. He did not trust councils or politics, But he knew there was no choice. The ring had already revealed too much. The colony would not let him simply walk away. Guards escorted them through winding passages built into the mountain walls. The halls were old, carved from black stone, lined with glowing crystals that hummed faintly. The air smelled of dust and history. The human felt the weight of 1,000 eyes as aliens peered from shadows, murmuring about the ring. Finally, they entered a great chamber. A circle of stone pillars rose high above, each etched with ancient alien markings. At the center stood the council. 5 elders draped in flowing robes, their faces stern, their eyes glowing faintly with wisdom and suspicion. Eshara bowed deeply, her frail body trembling. "Honored ones," she said, "the prophecy breathes again. The ring has returned, and it chose this human." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The eldest counselor leaned forward, his voice like iron. "Is this true? Show us, Outlander." The human stepped into the circle. He raised his hand, and the blue light of the ring filled the chamber. The glow climbed the pillars, reflecting in the eyes of the elders. For a moment, silence reigned, heavy with awe and fear. Another counselor spoke, her voice sharp as a blade. "Do you know what you hold, human? That ring is not a jewel. It is memory. It is power. It is curse." The human's face remained calm. "I know enough to fear it," he said, "and enough to guard it, but not all its secrets are mine." As if responding to his words, the ring pulsed again, brighter this time. Symbols rose in the air, strange glowing patterns of light, alien letters none had seen for centuries. The elders gasped, some whispered prayers, others stared in shock. Then the chamber shifted. The ring projected visions into the air, like ghostly flames. The walls disappeared, replaced by scenes of the past. The humans stood at the center, surrounded by the story the ring carried. They saw a battlefield of stars, fleets of ships burning across the void, humans and aliens fighting side by side against a monstrous enemy cloaked in shadows. The ring glowed brighter as the vision shifted, showing humans standing as allies, not enemies, wielding courage when others faltered. Eshara fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "It is true," she whispered. "Humanity fought with us, not against us. The old alliance was real." The elders sat frozen. Their eyes reflected the scenes of the forgotten war. One spoke in disbelief. "We erased these memories. We told ourselves humans were too weak, too selfish to stand with us. Yet the ring remembers differently." The human's voice was low, carrying across the chamber. "Your people forgot, but the warrior who gave me this never forgot. He wanted me to carry it so the truth would not die." The visions grew darker. The alien shadows overwhelmed planets. Worlds fell into fire, and in the end, the ring was lifted by alien hands, glowing defiantly even as civilizations collapsed. Then the vision faded, leaving only silence and the sound of the human's steady breath. The eldest counselor spoke, his voice shaking. "The ring holds truth we buried. It shows humanity as more than we believed, perhaps more than we can accept." The sharp-voiced counselor hissed. "Or it shows lies meant to deceive. How can we trust a relic that awakens for a stranger?" Eshara's voice broke as she cried out. "Because it is no lie. I was there when the last bearers fell. I saw the light fade, and now it returns. This human is not stranger. He is chosen." The human looked at her, his eyes thoughtful. He turned back to the council. "I did not ask for this. I did not seek your prophecy. But I will not abandon the promise I made. If you fear me, say so. If you wish to cast me out, I will leave, but this ring will not leave my hand." The council chamber filled with murmurs. Some elders exchanged tense looks. Others leaned forward with fear. The ring glowed faintly again, as if listening, as if waiting. The eldest counselor finally spoke, his words heavy with decision. "Then the question is not if you are chosen, human. The question is if you are ally or doom." The human's jaw tightened. His voice was calm but unyielding. "That will depend on whether you see the truth or choose to bury it again." The chamber fell silent, and the ring pulsed once more, brighter than before. Outside, thunder rumbled across the alien sky. As if the galaxy itself was listening, the chamber remained heavy with silence. The visions of the ring still lingered in the minds of the council. The human stood firm in the center, his hand lowered but the glow still pulsing faintly. He felt the weight of 1,000 years pressing against him. Eshara wiped her tears and whispered, "The light has returned. The choice is before us again." But before the council could speak further, the doors of the chamber shook violently. A guard stumbled in, blood on his face, his voice desperate. "They are here. The Black Sigil have returned. They come with numbers we cannot hold." The elders gasped. Some rose to their feet in panic. The old stones of the chamber shook again as horns blared outside. The human's eyes narrowed. His jaw clenched as he turned toward the doors. The fight he had sensed was already here. The eldest counselor shouted orders. "Prepare the defenses, seal the lower gates." But his voice carried fear. The colony had seen raids before, but never in such force. Eshara looked at the human, her old eyes filled with urgency. The ring drew them. They will not stop until they have it. They will burn this place to ash for it. The human touched the ring, the glow stronger now, his voice steady. "Then I will not let them take it." The guards rushed him and the elders out of the chamber. The halls filled with chaos as aliens ran, families seeking safety, warriors grabbing weapons too old to shine. The human moved through the panic, his steps firm. When they emerged into the colony square, the night sky was ablaze. Dozens of ships hovered above, black and jagged, spilling fire into the streets. Armored soldiers poured out, their cries harsh and merciless. The mark of the Black Sigil burned on their banners. The crowd screamed, buildings cracked and fell under the assault. The smell of smoke and ash filled the air. Children cried as their parents dragged them toward caves for shelter. The defenders fought back, arrows of light and bursts of plasma flashing, but they were outnumbered. The human's eyes scanned the destruction, his hand clenched, the ring glowing brighter with every scream he heard. One of the warriors of the Black Sigil spotted him, shouting to his comrades, "The bearer! There! Take the ring!" They surged toward him, blades raised. The human stepped forward to meet them. The ring pulsed violently, a wave of blue light exploding outward. It threw the first line of warriors back into the walls, their weapons scattering. The crowd gasped again. Their defenders stopped for a moment, stunned by the sight. Some whispered that the prophecy was true, others prayed louder. But the human was not finished. The glow crawled up his arm, burning symbols across his skin. He swung his hand, and the ground cracked, throwing enemies off their feet. Yet he did not fall to rage. His eyes remained sharp, calm, like a man carrying both strength and burden. Still, more and more came. The Black Sigil poured through the gates, their numbers endless. The human fought. But even with the ring's power, he was only one man. The colony warriors struggled beside him, dying faster than they could stand. Eshara appeared again, pulling at his arm, her frail body trembling. "You cannot fight them all. You must flee. Save the ring. Save yourself." But the human shook his head. "I made a promise. I do not run." From above, the enemy leader descended. His armor cracked from their last fight, but his fury greater than before. His voice thundered over the battle. "This ends tonight. Human, the ring belongs to the Black Sigil, and your blood will consecrate it." The human faced him, the ring blazing like fire now. His voice carried across the burning square. "It was not made for conquest. It was made for truth. You will not take it." The leader raised his blade, his warriors circling. The battle closed in tighter. The defenders fell one by one. The colony was drowning under the assault. And then, the ring did something it had not done before. The glow surged outward, filling the entire square with light. Images flickered in the air, visions of the old alliance, of humans and aliens fighting as one. The crowd stopped. Even the attackers faltered. The old woman gasped, her voice breaking. "It is calling to all of us. It is reminding us who we were." The human felt the weight of the vision press into him. The voice of the dying warrior echoed again in his memory. Only humanity can carry it. Only you can remind them. His body trembled under the force, but he stood tall. His voice carried through the chaos. "If this ring has chosen me, then hear me now. This fight is not mine alone. It belongs to all who still remember what unity means. Stand with me, or fall with them." The defenders froze for a heartbeat. Then one alien warrior shouted. With him, another joined, and another. The crowd found its courage again. And in the light of the ring, they surged forward with renewed strength. The Black Sigil leader snarled, his fury burning. This will not save you, human. But for the first time, his voice shook. The human lifted his hand, the ring pulsing, his eyes locked on the enemy. It will save them, he said, and that is enough. The night burned with battle, the colony becoming both battlefield and beacon. The war for the ring had only just begun. The colony burned under the dark sky. Smoke rose from shattered towers while cries of battle echoed through every street. The defenders fought with desperate courage, but the Black Sigil pressed harder with endless numbers. Their blades cut through stone and bone alike. In the middle of the chaos stood the human, the ring glowing like a star. His clothes were torn, his face marked with dust and blood, but his eyes were unshaken. Around him, the defenders had gathered, their spirits lit by the light he carried. The Black Sigil leader advanced again, his armor cracked, his voice filled with fury. Your light cannot last, human. It will burn out, and when it does, we will take what is ours. The human raised his hand, the glow of the ring spreading in waves. It is not yours, he said firmly. It never was. The ground trembled. The ring pulsed with stronger force than ever before. Symbols rose in the air, ancient and blazing. They circled him like fire. The aliens gasped as the runes burned across the sky, lighting the battlefield in blue flames. The enemy soldiers hesitated. Some stepped back in fear. The old woman Ashara lifted her hands and whispered, "It is unlocking. The true bearer has awakened it." But with the light came pain. The human's arm trembled as if the ring's power was too much for flesh to hold. His breath came heavy, his mind filled with voices of battles long gone, screams of warriors who carried the ring before him. For a moment, he staggered, almost collapsing. Ashara rushed forward, her frail voice desperate. "Hold on, human. Do not let it consume you. Remember the promise, not the pain." The human gritted his teeth, steadying himself. He forced his mind to focus, to center, and the light obeyed him once more. The Black Sigil leader roared and charged, his blade raised high. His soldiers followed, a tide of shadows crashing toward the defenders. The human lifted his glowing hand. The ring burst, unleashing a storm of light across the square. The blast threw enemies into the air, their armor shattering. The ground split, flames erupting from cracks. The defenders shielded their eyes, yet none were harmed by the light. It touched only the invaders, burning them with searing truth. The leader stumbled but rose again, scarred and furious. His eyes blazed with hate. "You cannot hold it forever. It will eat you alive. You are human, fragile, weak." The human stepped closer, his voice steady though his body shook. "Fragile. Yes, weak. No, it chose me because I am human, because I will not use it for conquest, but for survival." The old woman's voice rose above the noise. "He is the bearer. He is the proof of the prophecy. Stand with him." The defenders roared in answer. Their weapons flashed. Their courage surged. The Black Sigil pressed harder, but the colony no longer fought in fear. They fought in unity, shoulder to shoulder, inspired by the human's defiance. The leader roared again and leapt at the human. Their clash shook the ground. His blade struck, but the ring caught the force, sparks flying. The human pushed back, his strength not his own but guided by the light. The ring burned brighter, and for a moment, the shadows themselves recoiled. Still, the strain grew heavier. The human's body trembled as if breaking under the weight of the ring. He could feel it reaching deeper into him, testing him, asking if he was worthy. If he failed, it would destroy him. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, remembered the dying warrior's words. Only a human can bear it. And he drew strength not from the ring, but from the promise. Opening his eyes, he gripped the leader's blade with his free hand. The metal burned his skin, but he did not let go. He lifted the ring high, light pouring out like a storm. The leader screamed as the glow struck him, his armor melting, his body thrown back into the walls. The battlefield froze. The Sigil soldiers stared in disbelief, their leader, broken, crushed under the weight of the light. The human staggered, his knees weak, but he stood tall. The The ring dimmed slowly, its glow no longer wild but steady. His chest rose and fell with heavy breath, yet his eyes were clear. The invaders faltered. Without their leader, their courage broke. Some ran, some dropped their weapons. The defenders surged forward, forcing them back. The colony began to push the black sigil into retreat. Ashara supported the human as he stood, her voice low. You did what none of us could. You did what even our strongest failed to do. The human shook his head, his voice soft. I only kept a promise, that is all. The ring pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. The old woman looked at it with awe. No, human, it was never just a promise, it was destiny. The colony roared in victory as the black sigil fled into the dark. The human stood among them, the ring glowing faintly, but deep inside, he knew the battle was not finished. The ring had shown its true power, and now the galaxy would come hunting for it. And for him, the night grew quiet again, though smoke still drifted over the colony. The cries of battle had ended, replaced by whispers of relief and disbelief. The black sigil had fled into the shadows, leaving their dead and broken behind. The defenders stood among the ruins, their weapons lowered, their hearts still racing. At the center of it all stood the human, his hands still glowing faintly with the power of the ring. His clothes were torn, his body bruised, but his eyes burned steady. He looked around the square at the faces staring at him, alien and fearful, yet no longer hostile. Ashara walked to him slowly, leaning on her staff. Her old eyes shimmered with tears that caught the glow of the ring. She bowed her head low before him, her voice trembling. You have done what none of us believed possible. You have turned despair into hope. The human shook his head, his voice quiet. I am no savior. I am just a man keeping a promise. But the crowd pressed closer. Their whispers rose into chants. Some called him protector, others bearer. Some even whispered the old word they had not dared speak in centuries, guardian. The council emerged from the great chamber, their robes torn and their pride shaken. They had watched the battle unfold. They had seen the visions of the ring and the power unleashed. The eldest elder stepped forward, his voice heavy. The ring has chosen. The ring has spoken. We cannot deny what we have seen. Humanity is not curse. Humanity is part of the prophecy. The sharp-voiced elder frowned, but said nothing. Her eyes burned with suspicion, but even she could not deny what had happened. The human looked at them, his voice firm. Do not mistake this. I will not be your weapon. I will not be your pawn. This ring is not for conquest or rule. It is for truth. If you bury that truth again, you will destroy yourselves. The elders lowered their heads, some in shame, others in thought. The old woman reached for the human's hand. Though she dared not touch the ring itself, her voice was soft. Tell us then, what did he say? The one who gave it to you. What words did he leave for us? The human's eyes grew distant. He remembered the dying warrior's last breath, the weight of his final words. His voice lowered, carrying them across the silent square. He said the ring must live, not for power, but for unity, that only a human could bear it because only we would choose to carry it as a burden, not a crown. Gasps spread again. The aliens listened, hearts stirred by the message long forgotten. The human continued, his tone steady. He told me one more thing, that when the ring shined again, the galaxy would be watching, and it would decide if we rose together or fell apart forever. The ring pulsed once, as if confirming his words. Its glow spread across the ruins, soft and calm, no longer wild. The crowd felt its warmth, and for the first time in centuries, they felt not fear, but hope. Ashara's frail voice broke the silence. Then it is true, you are not just the bearer of the ring. You are the bearer of choice, of what comes next. The human looked at her, his eyes heavy with the burden. I am only one man, he said quietly. But if this is my path, then I will walk it, even if it means standing against the whole galaxy. The crowd stared in awe. Some bowed their heads, others dropped to their knees. The council lowered their eyes, accepting what none could deny. But the human's gaze did not rest on them. He looked out beyond the colony walls, into the dark horizon where the black sigil had fled. His jaw tightened. His heart knew the truth. This was only the beginning. For every enemy defeated, another would rise. The The ring's power had awakened, and soon, word would spread across the stars. Empires would come, armies would march, all hungry for the light he carried. The old woman whispered, her voice shaking, "Then may the galaxy be ready, for it has forgotten what humanity truly is." The human closed his hand around the ring, its glow fading into silence. He stood tall, his shadow long against the burning ruins, his voice steady. "Let them come," he said, "and they will learn." The colony erupted into cries of hope. Their voices filled the night, louder than the fires, stronger than the fear. The human stood among them, not as conqueror, not as savior, but as promise. And in that moment, the galaxy shifted, for one human with a ring had reminded them all that humanity was never to be underestimated.